Morinth, I can't deny how much I want you.
Do you really mean it? You'll be with me?
I will.
We have failed to uphold Brannigan's law. However, I did make it with a hot alien babe. And in the end, is that not what man has dreamt of since first he looked up at the stars? Kif, I'm asking you a question.
How do you follow up on a successful space RPG that had a fantastic story, brilliant world building, and lore that felt like it was a merge of Star Trek, Firefly, and even a bit of James Bond? And, well, as I've said before, I think sequels need to use the foundations of the original entry to grow and expand from there. And that is exactly what Mass Effect 2 did. So, after feeding the beast that was Dantics requesting me to cover Mass Effect 1 for so long, you can guess he was immediately asking me to cover Mass Effect 2.
Come on!
No.
I'll be your friend!
No.
Oh, you're mean!
Now, these past couple of weeks I've been wondering what to play, what to review, as I just wanted to have fun with a game. At first I went back to Dawn of War Definitive Edition, as that game is just pure nostalgia for me. It is one of my personal favourite strategy games as well, of all time, and as well as me watching Alien Earth, it also kind of reminded me that yes, I need to go back and play Dark Descent. But I gotta say, Mass Effect 2 was a perfect merge of playing a game for fun, but both for a review on the channel. Now, as I mentioned in my previous Mass Effect retrospective, I played Mass Effect 1 as a kid and I never really got into it and I gave up with it. But it was a few years later that my guitar teacher mentioned a game of Mass Effect 2 and he swore black and blue that it was better than the first game in every way. And for that week's homework, rather than guitar practice, he lent me his copy of Mass Effect 2 and asked me to play it for the week. And I gotta say, that was the best homework I ever got.
Here.
Say, this is nice.
But how do you kick off a sequel to Mass Effect? Well, the previous entry ended with Shepard and his crew searching the galaxy for more signs of the Reapers, and that's exactly where Mass Effect 2 starts, with Shepard, his crew, and his state-of-the-art ship, the Normandy, scouting space for the story to immediately start off with us under attack by a mysterious ship. The Normandy is then destroyed, your companions escape with some of their surviving crew, and your Commander Shepard goes out in a heroic sacrifice trying to save the pilot Joker, who refuses to abandon ship. This is the opening 5 minutes of Mass Effect 2. A new enemy appears, it destroys your state-of-the-art ship, your companions scatter to save crew members, and Shepard dies. It would be like starting The Empire Strikes Back with the Millennium Falcon being destroyed and Luke Skywalker dying, but from here though, in the Mass Effect universe, the organization or pro-human private military group, Cerberus, have resurrected and genetically rebuilt Commander Shepard to help stop the Reaper threat and this new emerging threat in the outer reaches of space known as the Collectors, and Cerberus believe that the Collectors are linked to the Reapers. Now for a quick recap, every 10,000 years this alien threat known as the Reapers appear in this universe. They eliminate every sign of intelligent life and then they disappear without a trace. Now, I'm oversimplifying this, but the last time the Reapers appeared, they destroyed a super advanced alien race known as the Protheans, and in Mass Effect 1, we end up stopping a Reaper invasion and set out to find more signs of the Reapers. But here in Mass Effect 2, we as Shepard are resurrected by the pro-human private military fund Cerberus, and the kicker is, Shepard has been dead for 2 years, and things have changed a bit during this time.
Moon pie. What a time to be alive.
For starters, the Alliance has done, well, really nothing about the Reaper threat, your companions have scattered around the universe, and Shepard rising from the dead by Cerberus, we are then given a mission by the leader of Cerberus in Martin Sheen, known as the Elusive Man, but we're told to investigate some of Cerberus's colonists who are being abducted on the edges of known space, and Commander Shepard has to assemble a crew to stop the new threat. And to do this mission, Cerberus gives him a new and improved Normandy, which gives us the return of Joker, the pilot voiced by Seth Green. And as most of our missions here in Mass Effect 2 are set around growing our crew, expanding and improving the ship of the Normandy 2.0, and earning the loyalty of our crew members, obviously we then set out to then stop the Collectors and what they're up to. Now, as I mentioned earlier, Mass Effect 2 is better than the first game in almost every way, and the first thing that stands out is the combat mechanics. Now firstly, combat here feels more fluid, like say what you would get in maybe a Gears of War game. It's a simple one button to get into cover, one button to vault, and one button to run, and there are also major changes to the weapons too, because this has received a bit of a combat overhaul. In the first Mass Effect game, weapons ran on a recharge system, a little similar to like Star Wars Battlefront, where if you used a weapon for too long, the gun would overheat, and then you needed to wait for it to cool down. Here in Mass Effect 2 though, the guns run on a heat sink, which is somewhat a ammo clip if you will, that will rapidly cool down your weapons once they're overcharged or overheated. But for gameplay intensive purposes, weapons here run on a universal ammo clip, and enemies will drop these or you'll find them hidden and scattered around the levels, and picking these up will provide ammo for all of your weapons. But Mass Effect 2 does carry over its class system and its mechanics from the first game. You'll also be able to import your Commander Shepard with all of your story choices that you made in Mass Effect 1. For example, and spoiler alert for Mass Effect 1, but my Rex survived the altercation that I had with him, and I had Ashley die rather than Kaidan. So those choices transferred over here into Mass Effect 2. But my Shepard's class also ported over too, but if you want to respec Shepard and choose a different class or customization for your Commander Shepard, Mass Effect 2 gives you a great in-universe explanation to make these changes because you are bringing Shepard back from the dead. I did, however, for this playthrough keep my boring soldier class for a few reasons. Firstly, the soldier can use every weapon in Mass Effect 2 except for submachine guns. Now they've got options to use shotguns, pistols, sniper rifles, assault rifles, and heavy weapons. And one of those heavy weapons is bonkers in a miniature nuke. Now the soldier class also has access to abilities or options to equip different firing modes or ammo types for your weapons, such as incendiary rounds, which will burn enemies to a crisp. They'll actually even then turn to ash once they're dead as well, which is pretty cool. Disruptor ammo, which is basically electrical rounds, which will cause a decent amount of damage to shields or non-synthetic enemies like say the Geth or drones. You've got cryo ammo, which I'll admit I barely use, but you can use this to freeze enemies and then they will shatter once they die as well, which is actually kind of cool. And soldiers also have the adrenaline rush, which slows down time and allowing you to line up shots or focus on targets to get some quick damage done. And I found I wasn't overly using the adrenaline rush mode a lot, but it more so came in handy when I would pull out the sniper rifle and I'd need to line up my shots. Anyway though, the general overview of combat here in Mass Effect 2 feels like a night and day difference from the first one for a couple of reasons. Firstly, the ammo clip style mechanic for weapons here does make combat feel faster, where you don't have to wait for your weapons to cool down, but it also changes up some of its mechanics or styles too. Because if you run out of ammo or heat sinks for the assault rifle, then you're forced to use another weapon, and I gotta be honest, the assault rifle was my bread and butter here in Mass Effect 2, so being forced to use say the shotgun or maybe the pistol was actually a bit of a neat idea.
I just think they're neat.
Secondly, the squad commands here in Mass Effect 2 with the option to sort of simply pause the game and get a layout of threats in the room, and to instruct your companions to equip certain ammo or certain weapons or use their certain abilities, felt more like a breather. And I'm gonna sound stupid here for a second, but I found myself sort of getting a bit flustered with some intense combat moments, and a couple of times I'd forget about the larger threats and die quicker than Lindsay Lohan's singing career.
Funny.
I thought so.
But the squad command here would actually help during these moments because I could sort of semi-pause the game, get a view for what's around the area and what situation my squad was in, and then I'd make my commands from here saying Garrus equip your sniper rifle, or for Jack to equip the warp ammo. Now the weapons and armor and inventory system here in Mass Effect 2 are completely different as well. Where in the previous game you'd have set weapons and armor that you could equip with certain stats and all that sort of stuff like that, where you could go into the menus and sort of see what's more of a powerful weapon or see what does a better sort of defensive boost. Where rather in Mass Effect 2, you don't have a heap of weapons to swap out with heaps of different modifiers to equip. Instead, for example, you have a total of 4 assault rifles, each with their own style. There's the standard assault rifle that you'll start off with. Before then, at sort of the middle of the game, you will unlock a heavy machine gun that is rapid fire, but it's got awful accuracy. But you'll also find a DMR style assault rifle that will pack a punch, but has very little ammo. And then you've got that 3-round burst that you come to expect as well with sort of other assault rifles. Now, instead of equipping these weapons in a menu though, Shepard will pick his weapons and his crew's loadout before starting a mission. So there's no finding a gun on the ground and swapping it out immediately, because firstly, you don't overly find guns just lying around like you would in the first game, but when you're out on a mission, you're more so focused on the story, the world, the characters, and the combat, rather than sort of like pausing the game and focusing on what item is best that you've just found and how that micro game of damage kind of works. You also won't have modifiers that will equip to your weapons either, but you can find upgrades for weapons, armor, abilities, or even upgrades for like how many stim packs you can hold or how much ammo you can carry. And these can be found out in missions, and you can go to the research hub on your ship, the Normandy, and put in-game minerals that work as like a currency to unlock these abilities or upgrades. Which, just quickly, is a new exploration-style minigame, if you will, here for Mass Effect 2. Now, there is no Mako, so you're not driving around on planets, well, not in a traditional sense, but you can explore the universe, scan planets for what resources they might have, and then deploy probes to mine for those resources, which then in tow, those resources are used to unlock new weapons, armor sets, upgrades for your weapons or upgrades for your suits, upgrades for your team members, and even as well upgrading the Normandy with increased weapons and shields and fuel tanks, and maybe even how many probes the Normandy can actually hold. Now, armor is a little similar to how it works in Mass Effect 1, but just like guns, armor isn't swapped out in menus like in the first game. Instead, you go to Commander Shepard's captain's quarters on the Normandy and change out what outfit Shepard is wearing for both his armor and what casual clothes he wears as well. And there is actually a decent variety of options here. You can change Shepard's helmet, his chest piece, his arms, his shoulder pads, and his legs, and certain armor provides him with different levels of buffs, like say increased shield regeneration or increased melee damage, which I don't think I meleeed a single enemy here in Mass Effect 2 now that I think of it. Now, this armor system too also helps with giving Shepard a bit of a personal touch to him as well, outside of, well, creating your own Commander Shepard if you chose to make your own character, but you can swap out the color palette of all of Shepard's armor. Now, I remember as a kid, I was running around in this dark red and gold kind of palette because I was trying to make Iron Man, but for this playthrough, I had some fun screwing around with the camo color theme and wearing sort of like a radio and tactical display for Shepard to use because his renegade scars would show through, which is also a great tie-in to the morality system here in Mass Effect 2, where if you play as a renegade, scars from the regenerating Shepard after he died doesn't heal properly, so you get sort of scars on your face, glowing red eyes, and his skin starts to go pale. It's very similar to the sort of Jedi or Sith morality system in, say, Knights of the Old Republic 2. But while the story and combat of Mass Effect 2 is more linear and easier to understand compared to the first, the options and variety of companions here is really impressive. We're given at first Jacob, who is this biotic soldier who has as much personality as an orthopedic shoe. And shortly after that we're given Miranda, where if you know nothing about Mass Effect 2, you'll know her.
What the fuck, y'all? God damn!
But as Shepard starts to build his crew, naturally he'll want to know what happened to members of his previous crew from the first game. And without going into spoilers on where they've been or what they've been doing, we do get the return of Tali and the greatest companion of all, in Garrus.
Blue, you're my boy!
But naturally, being a sequel, we get a raft of new companions with Mordin, a scientist, Thane, an assassin who has a great intro but overall is actually pretty bland, Zaid, a DLC bounty hunter who's okay but he kind of feels out of place, Kasumi, a DLC thief mastermind who's actually kind of badass, Samara, a Asari Justicar who's basically an incredibly powerful biotic, Grunt, a test tube Krogan who doesn't really compare to Rex from Mass Effect 1, and Jack, who is a babe, but who is also a prisoner that you've just freed and is kind of insane. We also get Legion, a Geth. Yeah, you can have a Geth companion here in Mass Effect 2, but I'll come back to him in a minute. Now, the main core story or plot points here in Mass Effect 2 is while they are to set out and to stop the Collectors, and Shepard coming back to life after 2 years of being dead, you'll find yourself gathering and growing your crew to take on the Collectors. And while it starts off pretty straightforward with getting a dossier of characters to meet, like collecting Jack from a prison or obtaining the Krogan test tube, you will then start to grow with these characters and they'll start reaching out asking for your help. And the companion side missions here aren't just pointless side missions to extend the shelf life of the game, but they feel quite natural here.
You honor me.
Now, the companion side missions, or the loyalty missions as they're known, give your companions backstory, and some of them can actually be pretty damn good connections that you'll have with your characters. Now, Jack was tortured as a child and experimented on, and her companion mission is about blowing up the asylum she grew up in. Jacob, the first companion you get, is pretty damn boring as a character, but his loyalty mission is all about tracking down a distress signal from a missing ship that his father was on, and it is a pretty damn cool mission. Thane, as the master assassin, is focused around his son and making sure his son doesn't follow in his footsteps, but the DLC mission that Kasumi has really surprised me because it was fun and creative. Now, where other missions like Grunt, the Krogan test tube baby, you need to send him to do the Krogan coming of age trials, and you do that with him, and Miranda's sort of companion mission is about saving her sister, but Kasumi's feels like it's pulled out of a Bond or Mission Impossible film, where you sort of sneak into a rich person's mansion to break into a vault before then going into shooting out against thugs and shooting off against mechs and dropships before then having a well-deserved emotional ending. Now, you get all of these DLC companions and more with Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which has been out for a little while now, but obviously it's included that you also get the Lair of the Shadow Broker DLC mission chain, which is pretty cool, but you'll also have this heartbreaking DLC mission with a Cerberus scientist who is torturing his brother and turning him into an AI to communicate with the Geth. Now, for this playthrough, for this video, I was doing my best to do a Renegade run, sort of role-playing in my head that my Shepard was pissed that the Alliance didn't bring him back sort of after he died, because, well, I'd be pissed too. I just saved the Citadel, I'm sort of stopping Reapers, and they just left me for dead. But the end of this DLC mission was so brutal, I could not pick the Renegade option.
No, dude, you're a little bitch.
I am not.
But speaking of Mass Effect 1, some of the characters and events from the first game, even little side quests that I'd forgotten about, had actually come back here, and it's pretty interesting. The Rachni Queen subplot came back in a bit of dialogue, I completely forgot about it, or the undercover internal affairs agent asking me for help, which was the same character from the first game, just these little small moments that really worked for me and highlighted what good games and good sequels can do for each other. I also took a heap of notes during my playthrough with Mass Effect 2, and here are just some of the random ones I want to highlight. Firstly, it is never safe to take your hand away from your controller during a cutscene, as cutscenes can be interactive for Renegade or Paragon options, and I found it worked great to keep me invested more so in, say, story and cutscenes. The dynamic between companions here in Mass Effect 2 is light years better than the first entry, where in one instance you will need to break up a fight between Jack and Miranda.
No! You never break up a girl fight! Never!
But again, there's also a great variety of companion missions or loyalty missions as well, like Tali, who has a court trial, which is actually kinda cool. There's also some great random side missions here and there just out in the universe, like one that I found that was just a ship dangling off a mountain's edge and you needed to get to the flight recorder. Now, toward the tail end of the story, there are great moments where you will play as Joker, and it's got some great horror undertones and moments to it. It reminded me a little bit of Alien. And you will, in this moment as well, find, well, at least I found, that I cared about what happened to crew members of the Normandy. And speaking of the Normandy, the ship here is massive compared to the Normandy in the first game, and you'll actually kind of enjoy walking around the ship, talking to your companions who are scattered and placed around areas of the ship that kind of suit their characters. Samara is on the observation deck, and it works sort of great for her super biotic powerful character. Miranda, as an agent of Cerberus, has a personalised office and living quarters, and because Jack hates everyone, she bunks out under the stairs in engineering, and Tali is located as well on the engineering deck near the engine drive. There were, though, some things that Mass Effect 2 does a little differently to Mass Effect 1 that might have some fans annoyed. Firstly, while Mass Effect 2 is a fantastic game, it does have more of a focus on a linear story and gameplay mechanic with very little open exploration like the first entry.
Not the answer I was looking for.
The Citadel has no real exploration compared to the first game. It is quite small and also quite different from the first game as well. The Citadel isn't this vast open area. There is also no Mako here as well, so you're not driving around on planets. Now, in some DLC missions, you will get the Hammerhead, which is this floating skiff-like ship, which is kind of cool, but you're not using it like the Mako in the first game, where you can freely get in and out of the vehicle going into enemy bunkers. Secondly, the level structure and world feels very linear, and it's a similar problem with the Gears of War games, but you can tell when there's a combat arena coming up with ample amounts of cover scattered around and only really one direction to move in. And just like the first game too, Commander Shepard can only sprint for about 5 seconds before getting tired. And in some instances, I found it actually removed some of the tension and pace from when Shepard would stop running in the middle of a firefight when I was trying to get him to run into cover. It kind of just went like, come on dude. There are also moments during the general gameplay where Shepard or your companions would kinda act lifeless. Like during a side mission with the scientist and the AI, Shepard gets somewhat possessed in a way, if you will, and Shepard leaves his companions, and they're just kinda like silently banging on the door. They're not calling out to him or sort of trying to talk to him. You can tell for some of the DLC missions that they didn't get any of the returning voice actors for the companions. They literally just got Commander Shepard, and that's really it. In one of the side missions too, like you're getting Joker to quickly leave a planet and use a Mass Effect drive, and there's a massive sense of urgency around it, and while Joker is in the DLC, he has no lines and it kind of feels off. What also personally kind of annoyed me too was the character creation. Again, personal problems, not really a big deal, but when I booted up Mass Effect 1, rather than playing as the standard Shepard, I decided to try and make myself, well, the best that I could. And seeing as the beard options in Mass Effect 1 are pretty shit, I was happy with how I looked in Mass Effect 1. Now, when I booted up Mass Effect 2 and saw how my Shepard looked as I ported over my character, his somewhat 3-day beard growth had turned into 5 o'clock shadow. Now, it is an old game as well for me to nitpick on, but it would have been a cool option to have some beards in there maybe. But what I really find special about Mass Effect 2 is its near instant replayability. Now, I'm going to move on to some spoiler territory, so if you don't want anything ruined, go to the timestamp you see on screen. So Shepard is resurrected by the Elusive Man and Cerberus to help find out what's going on with missing colonists, and we find that the colonists are being captured by the Collectors, a race of aliens that the universe know very little about. But the Collectors are going to planets, deploying swarms of insects that will paralyze people, and then kidnapping humans and taking them away to where we don't really know.
This is unbelievable.
But through the course of the game, we learn that the Collectors are actually Protheans, the race of aliens that were made extinct by the Reapers 10,000 years ago. And the Reapers have turned the Protheans into Collectors, and they are harvesting humans, and as the story progresses, the Collectors have been capturing more and more humans to the point where the Collectors even board the Normandy while Shepard is away and capture the crew. But the Collectors are taking humans to basically turn them into sludge and goo to create a human Reaper, which we find and face off against at the end of the game, and it is pretty damn impressive, sure. But the reason why I think Mass Effect 2 has great replayability, and it's a replayable game, is the final mission in the core story, the Suicide Mission, where Shepard, his crew, and the Normandy use the Omega Relay. Now, it's a Mass Effect relay that no one has ever survived, to go to the Collector base and to stop them. And in order to have a successful run with the Suicide Mission, you need to pay attention and have certain upgrades to your ships.
Can you repeat the part of this stuff where you said all about the things?
Firstly, when you start the Suicide Mission, the Normandy comes under attack by drones, explosions, and more. And if you don't complete companion side missions and upgrade the Normandy from this, the ship will rip and tear apart and it will kill crew members.
Ooh, that's bad.
Now, when the mission properly starts, you will land on the collector ship, and you need to basically arrange what crew members goes through and sort of hacks into the collector systems and goes through a heated tunnel, and what backup team will cause distractions and who will lead the backup team.
That's good.
And you'll have these options a couple of times during the suicide mission, and depending on who you pick for what task, companions can die.
That's bad.
Now, for my first playthrough, when I was a kid, I didn't upgrade the Normandy and I picked the wrong companions for the wrong job. I remember putting the scientist, Morden, into a heated tunnel and asked him to hack into the collector mainframe. Morden is a scientist. I asked him to do a tech job, so naturally he died. When a powerful biotic is required to escort a small fire team, Miranda boasts that any biotic can do it. So I chose her, only for more companions to die, and I went through playing the suicide mission here and I went, you know what, I've played this before, I'm going to play it a little bit smarter. And I still had companions die. But before this, I was keeping my mate Dantics up to date with where I was in the story, and just before the suicide mission, you're introduced to the Geth companion you can recruit, Legion. Now, because I was doing a renegade run for this playthrough, I accidentally gave Legion the Geth to the elusive man for research, and I claimed a bounty on him.
You did what?
So I couldn't actually use Legion in the suicide mission to have him hack into the collector base or to go through a heated tunnel. But I picked the incorrect squad members to lead the second fire team, and I had Tali get a rocket launcher to the head. And honestly, this companion's death was pretty damn full on. Then before I knew it, I had Grunt die because I thought he could lead a fire team, and it turns out picking a test tube Krogan baby to lead a team wasn't a great decision.
Not a great plan.
Before I knew it though, I ended Mass Effect 2 with Legion turned in for a bounty, Tali dead because of the lack of leadership, because I picked Zaid to lead my second fire team squad, seeing as he is an experienced mercenary and bounty hunter, yet he still got Tali killed. Also, I got Grunt killed because I thought he could lead a team, apparently not, as well as I opted to kill Samara and have her daughter, basically who is a sexual vampire, take her place in my squad. But immediately after finishing the suicide mission, I booted up an old save and went straight back to do it again. I picked Tali for the vents, but this time, I picked the best companion in all of Mass Effect, Garrus, to lead the fire team, and honestly, it was a pretty cool moment where Shepard and his crew starts to falter, to then see Garrus rally the troops and provide covering fire, and Tali survive this. And from this, I had all of my companions, besides Legion, and besides Samara, survive the suicide mission, and honestly, this was a great way to end the main story of Mass Effect 2 and get ready to move into Mass Effect 3. But that's the great thing about Mass Effect 2, and by extension, Mass Effect 1, is the decisions you make in your playthroughs with your companions and how you approach situations, how it alters and changes the events of the game and how the universe unfolds. Chatting with Dantics while playing the suicide mission for the first time, he was baffled how I didn't have Legion, and with Tali being dead, he said my playthrough for Mass Effect 3 would be pretty damn interesting. But I also couldn't let an original crew member go out like that, so I had to boot up the final mission again and get a 100% survival rate, so then I could move into Mass Effect 3 on a high. But having said that too, my original final cutscene in the game with Shepard paying his respects to the caskets of Grunt and Tali, an original crew member, kinda gave me final mission stakes in that no one is safe and people are going to die. And it kinda had me keen to do a complete playthrough of Mass Effect 1 to 3 without using old saves to keep crew members alive.
He's dead, Jim. He's dead, Jim. He's dead, Jim.
But we're out of the spoiler section now, but if you've not played Mass Effect 1, I think in a way you can boot up and play this fantastic story here and have a great time, because that's exactly what I did when I was a kid. Certain missions stick with you, like the final suicide mission, the reintroduction to Garrus, hell, the DLC mission with the Cerberus scientist and his brother, and the Geth and the AI, is going to emotionally haunt me for years to come.
Yeah, but you're a little bitch.
Sure.
God damn it, man.
But for a little while I've needed a break from creating reviews and content in general, and I just needed to play a game that was fun, to immerse myself in a world and to forget about my 9 to 5 job, And that is exactly what Mass Effect 2 did. It was a game where I'd chat with my mates about the decisions my Shepard made. It was a game that I grew to like and care about my companions, like Jacob. Sure, he's a boring character, but his loyalty mission was pretty damn bonkers. I'm now keen to check out Mass Effect 3, which I think was actually going to be in the next few months, because what I also found that playing Mass Effect, the trilogy, with a bit of a break between each game, works and gives you a bit more of those like member-berry moments, where there's references to the Rachni Queen or the Thorian, and it worked well as oh yeah, I remember that moment while I was playing Mass Effect 2 here. And when you see Rex and Shepard meet each other again in Mass Effect 2, it worked great as a scene of two friends who haven't seen each other for years. But I'm curious to know, what connections or memories do you have with Mass Effect? Did you do a renegade run and sell Legion to the Elusive Man? Did you kill Samara for her daughter to take her place? Did you side with Jack over Miranda and start a relationship with Jack? Is Garrus the best companion in Mass Effect out of every companion to ever live, or are you simply wrong? Because that's the great thing with Mass Effect 2. Everyone has a different experience. But whether you side with Cerberus or you think there's no better Krogan than Rex, always remember to play with each other and play with yourself.